What if everything you thought you needed to make you happy was the very thing holding you back? Pause. Let that question settle in and feel its weight anchor itself in your mind. What if the things you've spent your whole life chasing, the approval, the validation, the status, the external markers of success, weren't leading you to the peace and fulfillment you so deeply crave, but were actually pushing it farther away? What if all this time you've been living a life that isn't fully yours, shaped by the expectations and judgments of others? What if you've been sacrificing your own peace just to feel accepted or validated, chasing after fleeting approval that never truly satisfies? It's so easy to fall into the trap, isn't it? The world we live in is constantly bombarding us with messages: what success should look like, what happiness is supposed to feel like, what you should be striving for. We're surrounded by an endless stream of images and ideas that tell us how to live, what to achieve, and who to become. And so, we chase these ideals, working harder, pushing further, fitting ourselves into molds others have created for us. But somewhere along the way, we lose ourselves. We start trading pieces of our own peace, our dreams and our truth, for a version of happiness that was never meant for us. We think we have to fit into the world's narrow definition of success, but in doing so, we disconnect from the things that truly matter. We begin to shape our lives based on what others think we should do, or who they think we should be. Take a deep breath. Inhale slowly, hold it for a moment, and let it out gently. Feel your body begin to relax each exhale, shedding some of the weight that has been pulling at your soul. Now, as you settle into this space, ask yourself, what if I stopped living for others? What if instead of chasing someone else's version of happiness, I began living for myself, authentically, unapologetically? What would it feel like to release the constant need for external validation, to stop looking outside for the approval I think I need? What if I could step away from trying to mold myself into something I'm not, just to meet someone else's expectations? What if choosing myself, just this simple act of living for my own truth, was the key to unlocking the peace and joy I've been seeking all along? Think about that for a moment. In the quiet of your own mind, ask yourself, what would it feel like to stop seeking permission to be who I truly am? What if letting go of the need to please everyone else, meant I could finally find my own peace, just by being me? The freedom in that thought is profound. For so long, we've been conditioned to live for others, to shape ourselves into what they expect, to seek approval, to measure our worth by their standards. But what if the most powerful act of freedom you could ever take was to reclaim your life, to step out of the shadows of others' expectations and live for yourself? Let's explore what happens when we stop running after the approval of others, when we stop living for someone else's version of success, and instead, we start honoring the deepest truths within ourselves. What would happen if you gave yourself permission to be enough just as you are? What would your life look like if you began choosing yourself not as an act of selfishness, but as an act of self-respect? As the Buddha once said, "You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection." So as we move through this journey together, let's explore what happens when we stop running after approval and validation from the outside world, and start honoring the deepest desires and truths within ourselves. What would happen if, for once, you gave yourself permission to be enough just as you are? Why living for others will always let you down. We've all been there, haven't we? The constant struggle to please others, to fit into the world's expectations, to be liked, accepted, admired. We all carry this innate desire to be seen, to be valued. It feels natural at first, doesn't it? It's part of our human nature to want to connect, to be acknowledged. But how much of your life has been spent molding yourself to meet the needs and desires of others at the cost of your own peace? Take a moment and reflect how much of your energy goes into making others happy, living up to their expectations, fulfilling roles that weren't meant for you. Without even realizing it, you may have been trading pieces of yourself for approval. Little by little, those pieces you give away start to add up until you look around and realize that the person you see in the mirror isn't the person you feel inside. You've become a patchwork version of someone else's vision of who you should be. Think about it. How often do you adjust your decisions, your plans, your entire life based on what others think? Maybe it's the way you dress the job. You take the things you say, all carefully curated to make sure that you meet someone else's approval. Maybe you downplay your true desires, pretending they don't matter, just to keep the peace, avoid conflict, or stay in the good graces of others. Do you try to be the perfect employee, always going above and beyond, even when it leaves you drained and unfulfilled? Or perhaps you've been trying to be the perfect partner, the perfect friend, always giving of yourself, without stopping to ask, what do I really want? But with all that effort, with all that constant striving, do you ever feel truly fulfilled? Do you ever feel the deep, lasting peace that comes with truly being yourself? Or do you feel as if you are constantly running, always trying to keep up with the demands and expectations that others place on you? The truth is, you are not a reflection of the expectations others have for you. You are not here to mold yourself into a perfect image of someone else's making. Here's the uncomfortable truth. External validation is fleeting. It is fragile, unreliable, and always out of your control. You might feel a momentary lift when someone praises you, when they tell you that you did well. But how long does that feeling last? How quickly does it fade, leaving you hungry for the next compliment, the next piece of approval, the next validation? We all seek it, don't we? That one perfect comment, that nod of approval from someone we respect. But as soon as it's gone, so is our sense of happiness. When your self-worth is tethered to how others see you, your happiness becomes as fragile as the opinions of those around you. One compliment can lift you, but one judgment can break you. This is the dangerous cycle we find ourselves in. When we live for others, our happiness is no longer in our hands. It's in the hands of people who may not even truly know who we are, who may not understand our deepest needs. We start living for their approval, and in the process, we forget to live for ourselves. Think about how many times you've adjusted your life to meet the demands of others. Maybe it's something small like saying yes when you really wanted to say no, just to avoid disappointing someone. Or perhaps it's bigger, sacrificing your dreams, your peace, your time, all in the name of fulfilling the expectations others have placed on you. When was the last time you made a decision just for you, without worrying about what anyone else would think? When was the last time you felt free enough to follow your own heart, your own desires, without second-guessing yourself or worrying about the consequences? Here's the hard truth: living for others will always leave you feeling empty. It will leave you constantly chasing after something that you can never truly catch, because the validation you seek is always out of reach. It's like trying to fill a well that never stays full, always needing more, always thirsting for something that can never satisfy you. When you live for the approval of others, you are constantly at the mercy of their opinions. You shape your life around their needs, their desires, their definitions of success. And when they're happy, when they approve of you, it's like a brief respite. But when they're upset, or when their approval fades, so does your sense of self-worth. That's the cycle. You begin to rely on others to define your happiness. And the truth is, no one should hold that power over you. This is the danger of trying to fit into someone else's mold. We become so focused on meeting the expectations of others that we lose sight of who we truly are. We begin to disappear in the process. The more we try to please, the less we connect with our true self. The less we honor our own desires, the more distant we become from the life we were meant to live. But what if there was another way? What if instead of pleasing others, we focused on pleasing ourselves? What if instead of shaping our lives based on external opinions, we shaped them around our own inner truth? What would that freedom feel like? To finally stop living for the approval of others and start living for yourself. Imagine for a moment waking up each day not based on the expectations of others, but on what feels true to you. Imagine making choices based on your inner compass, choosing the career, the relationships, the passions that align with who you truly are, not what others think you should be. That's where true peace lives. Peace is not in the approval of others. It is in the approval of yourself. It is in being so aligned with your own truth that nothing outside of you can shake you. But getting there takes time and it takes practice. It's not an overnight change. It's about learning to listen to your own voice, even when it feels quieter than the voices of others. It's about choosing yourself every day, not out of selfishness, but out of self-respect. When you stop living for the approval of others, you give yourself the gift of inner peace, or a peace that doesn't depend on fleeting praise or changing opinions. So ask yourself, how much longer will you let the opinions of others define your happiness? How many more pieces of yourself will you trade for someone else's approval? It's time to take your life back. The only approval you need is your own. Start living for yourself, because that's where real fulfillment begins. To the tree metaphor, finding strength in your roots. Let me offer you an image to reflect on. Picture yourself as a tree, but not just any tree. Imagine a tree with shallow roots. Every time the wind blows, you bend. Every time someone offers an opinion or expectation, you sway. And with each gust of judgment, you wonder, am I going to snap? You constantly find yourself adjusting to others, trying to fit in, trying to please, but never fully grounded. Your branches stretch out to meet the world, but deep inside, you feel unsteady. You are not rooted in yourself. Now shift that image. Imagine instead that your roots run deep, deep into the earth. The winds still blow, the storms still rage, but you stand firm. You are no longer tossed around by the whims of others. You are solid, grounded, unwavering in your truth. The world may change around you, but your roots, your inner knowing, your true self, keep you steady. Why? Because you know who you are. Your worth does not depend on anyone else's opinion. You are rooted in your own truth, in your own values, in the core of who you are. And in that truth, there is strength, there is power. Now think about the wins in your life, the pressures, the demands, the expectations placed on you by friends, family, co-workers, society. Every day you're asked to bend, to shift, to adapt. The winds howl, sometimes fiercely, and you feel as though you can't keep up, as though if you don't bend just a little bit more, you'll snap. This constant strain of trying to meet everyone else's expectations can leave you exhausted, questioning whether you've lost yourself in the process. But what if you didn't have to bend to every gust? What if you could stand tall, firmly rooted in your own sense of self? Imagine how freeing it would be to stop adjusting yourself to fit into molds that weren't meant for you. Picture a life where your choices and actions are guided by your own truth, not by the shifting winds of others' judgments. This is the power of mindfulness. It is the practice of returning to your roots, of tuning in to your own needs, feelings, and desires, without allowing the noise of the world to drown them out. Mindfulness teaches us to reconnect with ourselves, to listen to our hearts, to remember that our peace does not lie in the approval of others, but in the clarity that comes from being grounded in our own truth. Take a moment right now. Close your eyes and breathe deeply. Let the world fade into the background for just a few seconds. Ask yourself, what do I need today for me? Tune in to the soft whispers of your heart, to the quiet voice inside that knows exactly what you need. What would it feel like to honor that voice? What would it feel like to act in alignment with your own truth instead of trying to meet someone else's expectations? Think about it. How often do you ignore your own needs simply to please others? How many times have you sacrificed your own peace, your own desires, just to keep the peace around you? When we are constantly adjusting, constantly bending, we lose our sense of self. We give away pieces of our truth, little by little, until we feel hollow inside. But in those moments of mindfulness, in those moments of returning to your roots, you reconnect with your inner strength. You begin to stand firm like the tree, with deep roots grounded in your truth. The winds still blow, yes, but now they can't shake you. You know who you are. And when you know who you are, the world around you can change, but you remain steady. Mindfulness is the key to cultivating this inner strength. It teaches us to slow down, to listen, and to trust that our truth is enough. It allows us to honor our needs without guilt, to stand up for ourselves without fear, and to live authentically regardless of external pressures. Take a deep breath now. Let it out slowly, and with it release any doubts about who you are. You are enough. Your roots are deep, your foundation strong, and your truth unwavering. You don't have to bend to please anyone else. You are here to stand firm in your own light. Each day is an opportunity to practice this mindfulness. Each moment is a chance to check in with yourself. What do I need today? What would it feel like to honor that need without hesitation, without second guessing? What would it feel like to choose yourself just for today? By tuning in, by returning to your roots, you begin to live a life that's true to you. You begin to live from a place of strength, not strain. The winds of judgment may always blow, but you stand steady. You are grounded in your truth, and in that truth, you will find the strength to weather any storm. So today I invite you to plant yourself firmly in your own truth. Let your roots grow deep and stand tall, knowing that the world will adjust to you, not the other way around. You are grounded, you are strong, and you are enough. 3. The cost of pleasing. when self-betrayal takes over. We all know the feeling, that moment when we say yes, when we really mean no. It's the smile we put on when we're hurting the agreement we offer when our heart isn't in it all, because we don't want to disappoint. We don't want to rock the boat. We think in those fleeting moments that it's easier this way, that by conforming, we can avoid the tension, avoid the judgment. We think that by saying yes, we're keeping the peace, and we go along hoping the weight of it will just disappear. But each time we betray our own needs, we chip away at the very foundation of who we are. It seems harmless at first. A small compromise here, a slight bend there. But over time it builds up. We give pieces of ourselves away thinking that we're doing the right thing, that we're being helpful, that we're being good or kind. But eventually we run out of pieces to give. We look in the mirror and see a version of ourselves that feels unfamiliar, as if we've lost something along the way. Our energy is drained, our sense of self starts to feel hollow, and the exhaustion begins to settle in. We've spent so much time trying to meet others' expectations, so much effort trying to be everything for everyone else that we start to lose touch with who we really are. We suppress our desires, our true needs, our dreams, just to fit into a mold that others have created for us. And the more we do this, the more disconnected we become. We lose the voice that once came so easily, we can't even hear the dreams we once had. And when we betray ourselves for the sake of others, when we let their needs and expectations define our actions, something inside us starts to fade. The self we once knew, the person we were before we started sacrificing for everyone else, begins to slip away. Our confidence erodes and our clarity dims. We shrink into the shadows of someone else's idea of who we should be. But here's the most important truth. You can change that. The good news is you don't have to keep sacrificing yourself. You don't have to keep putting everyone else's needs above your own. You don't have to stay stuck in this endless cycle of self-betrayal. You can start honoring your own needs again. You can begin setting boundaries that protect your energy, your time, your peace. And you can start saying no when your heart says no, instead of going along with what everyone else wants. In Buddhism, there is a teaching known as right speech, one of the elements of the Noble Eightfold Path. This teaching reminds us that our words are powerful, not only because they affect others, but because they affect ourselves. By choosing to speak our truth, by honoring our needs and desires, we align ourselves with our inner wisdom and self-respect. Saying no when necessary, rather than betraying our own feelings, is not only a form of self-care, but an act of compassion for ourselves. By practicing right speech, we begin to honor our inner truth, protect our well-being, and stop betraying ourselves. Take a moment right now and pause, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and think about a time when you said yes, even though it didn't align with your truth. Maybe it was agreeing to a work project when you were already overwhelmed. Maybe it was a social commitment you didn't want to make, but you did it anyway to avoid feeling guilty. Now imagine what it would feel like to say no, to honor your own needs instead of betraying them for the sake of someone else's comfort. Can you feel the freedom that comes with that? The liberation in speaking your truth, even when it feels uncomfortable. That's the power of self-respect. Self-respect isn't just about holding firm when you're faced with a difficult decision. It's about listening to yourself in the first place. It's about realizing that your needs, your desires, and your peace are just as important as anyone else's. When you say no to things that don't serve you, you are saying yes to yourself, to your well-being, to your own growth. You are reclaiming your sense of self piece by piece, and you are choosing to live in alignment with your truth, not someone else's. This shift doesn't happen overnight. It takes practice, it takes patience, and yes, it takes courage. But the more you start to honor your needs, the more you set boundaries that protect your peace, the stronger you become. The voice that once felt lost, it comes back. The dreams that once seemed distant, they're within reach again. Your self-worth is no longer measured by how much you give to others, but by the love and care you give to yourself. Let me be clear. Saying no is not about being selfish or mean. It's about being honest. It's about honoring your truth. It's about realizing that by taking care of yourself first, you are better equipped to care for others. You're not running on empty anymore. You're filling up your own cup, so it overflows. And when you give from that place of fullness, you give freely without bitterness, without resentment, and with love. So I encourage you to start small. Start today. Next time someone asks for your time, your energy, or your help, pause. Don't immediately say yes out of habit. Check in with yourself. Ask yourself, what do I need right now? Is this something that aligns with my truth? If the answer is no, don't be afraid to speak up. Set that boundary. Say no with confidence, and watch how it feels to honor yourself. You deserve the freedom that comes with living true to yourself. You deserve the peace that comes from listening to your own voice. And with each time you say no, you are not only protecting your peace, but you are also building the strength to live a life that is aligned with your true desires. So let's break free from the habit of self-betrayal. Let's stop saying yes when we mean no. Let's start living for ourselves, honoring our needs, and reclaiming the pieces of ourselves that we've given away. Because in doing so, we open the door to a life of true fulfillment, one that is grounded in our own truth, rooted in self-respect, and free from the weight of constantly trying to please everyone else. And remember, your needs matter. You matter. You are worthy of being heard, of being seen, and of living in a way that brings you peace. Take a deep breath, honor your truth, and step into the freedom that comes with choosing yourself. For letting people dislike you and still rise. Imagine for a moment the sun rising each day without hesitation, without apology. It rises and it shines brightly, fully, with a power that comes from knowing exactly what it is. It doesn't seek permission from anyone. It doesn't worry about whether it will be admired or accepted. Some bask in its warmth, others turn away, but the sun continues to rise unwavering. It doesn't shrink, it doesn't apologize, and it never dims its light for anyone. You are like the sun. You don't need to shrink yourself for anyone. True freedom comes when you accept that not everyone will like you, and that's perfectly okay. The world is filled with different opinions, with a spectrum of beliefs, tastes, and judgments. And it's not your job to fit into every mold, to meet every expectation, or to be loved by everyone. Your worth is not determined by others' approval. There's a powerful lesson in accepting that we can't please everyone. And this truth, once embraced, offers us one of the greatest freedoms we can experience. The freedom to be ourselves, authentically, unapologetically, and without fear of judgment. Let me share the story of someone who truly embraced their own authenticity despite the world's indifference. There was an artist who poured their heart into their work, A work that was raw, personal, and vulnerable. But not everyone appreciated it. In fact, critics were quick to dismiss it, and the art world seemed to turn its back. The artist could have given up, could have changed their style, could have tried to fit into the mold of what was deemed acceptable by the masses. But instead they chose a different path. They stayed true to their vision. They didn't let the world's rejection dictate their worth. They didn't shrink. They didn't compromise. They kept creating from their heart. And guess what happened? Eventually, someone saw the truth in their work. Someone resonated with the authenticity, the vulnerability, the rawness of it all. That artist didn't need to be liked by everyone. They didn't need to change their art to please the critics or fit into the conventional standards of success. What they needed was to stay true to themselves, to keep shining their light even when the world wasn't paying attention. And in doing so, they found their freedom. They found their audience. They found their peace. This is the kind of freedom we all crave, the freedom to rise and shine, without the constant worry of being liked, without the fear of judgment. The truth is, when you live in alignment with your own authentic self, you don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to apologize for your dreams, your beliefs, your desires, or your truth. It's time to let go of the need to seek approval from every person you meet. The world will always have opinions, but those opinions are not your burden to carry. You are not here to live in the shadow of others' expectations. You are here to be fully, beautifully you. Consider the freedom in not needing to be liked by everyone. What would it feel like to finally stop editing yourself, to stop shifting your energy to fit into someone else's idea of who you should be? Imagine a life where you could stand tall, just like the sun, and shine without the fear of judgment. Think of how liberating it would be to stop hiding, stop apologizing, and simply be. The journey to this kind of freedom is not always easy. We've been taught to seek approval, to gain acceptance, to strive for external validation. It's deeply ingrained in us to want to be loved, to be praised, to be accepted by the world around us. But the truth is, the more we chase after this external validation, the more we lose touch with ourselves. We become so focused on pleasing others that we forget to listen to our own voice. We forget what it feels like to stand in our own power and embrace who we truly are. The Buddha also said, "Do not look for a sanctuary in anyone except yourself." This reminder is a call to return to our true nature, to trust that everything we need is already within us. When we stop seeking external validation, we find inner peace, a peace that is untouchable by others' opinions or judgments. Think of someone who has accepted this freedom, someone who stopped compromising for the sake of others. It could be a friend, a public figure, or even someone in your life who is unapologetically themselves. Notice how they don't ask for permission to be who they are. They don't shrink to fit into someone else's idea of success. They walk with a quiet confidence, not because they seek validation from others, but because they are rooted in their own truth. We all have the ability to embrace this kind of confidence, this kind of strength. But first, we must stop seeking others' approval and instead focus on validating ourselves. It's about embracing your inner strength and knowing that you are enough. Just as the sun rises shining brightly without apology, you too can rise boldly, unapologetically, and shine your light for the world to see. The moment you stop shrinking to fit into someone else's mold, you start to expand. You start to live a life that is authentic, that is yours, free from the pressures of judgment and expectations. You stop apologizing for being yourself and start celebrating the truth of who you are. Let me offer you a small but powerful exercise. The next time you feel the urge to explain yourself or apologize for something that is true to you, take a deep breath and remind yourself, I am not here to fit in. I am here to stand out in my own way. You don't have to justify your choices, your beliefs, your dreams. You simply need to live them fully and without apology. So, stand tall, shine like the sun unafraid of who might turn away, knowing that your light is for you, not for their approval. Embrace the freedom that comes with not needing everyone to like you. Trust that your truth is enough, and that when you rise in your own truth, the world around you will begin to adjust. Rise like the sun, unapologetically, confidently, and with the knowledge that you don't need permission to be exactly who you are. You are here to shine, and no one can take that away from you. Your light doesn't depend on anyone else's approval. It shines because it was meant to. And that's where true freedom begins. 5, validation and the whatever mindset. So many of us live for approval. It's a subtle hunger that creeps into nearly every part of our lives, isn't it? Whether it's seeking praise for the work we do, validation from the relationships we build, or reassurance about the way we look or carry ourselves in the world, we crave it. We long for that external recognition, that nod of approval, that confirmation that we're good enough, that we matter. It's almost as if we can't fully be ourselves until someone else affirms us. But here's the uncomfortable truth. External validation is fleeting. It's fragile. It's like a passing breeze. Sometimes it's warm and comforting, but it can change direction in an instant, leaving us cold and empty. It's not a solid foundation for peace. When we build our sense of self-worth on the opinions of others, we're setting ourselves up for disappointment. We become dependent on what others think to feel secure, to feel whole. And that kind of dependence can never bring lasting peace. Think about this. How many times have you waited for someone else's approval before making a decision, before taking action, before being truly yourself? How many times have you adjusted your behavior, your choices, or your dreams to fit what others expected of you? How many times have you silenced your true desires just to keep someone else happy or to be accepted? The need for validation becomes a cycle. One moment you feel uplifted by praise, the next you're brought low by criticism. It's a roller coaster ride that can leave you feeling exhausted, empty, and disconnected from your own truth. Let me tell you a story about a famous artist, a creative soul who poured their heart and spirit into their craft. For years they worked tirelessly, creating art that was raw, expressive, and deeply personal. But despite their passion, the world didn't appreciate it. The critics didn't recognize the value of their work. The galleries didn't offer a platform for their pieces. And over time, they began to doubt themselves. They questioned their talent. They started to feel as if their worth was tied to others' validation. They stopped creating. They set their brushes down because they couldn't bear the thought of creating in a world that didn't appreciate them. But then something shifted. This artist let go of their dependence on external validation. They stopped waiting for the art world's approval. They didn't need the critics' nods or the gallery's applause to feel worthy. Instead, they returned to their art, not for anyone else's approval, but for the joy of creation. They rediscovered the reason they started in the first place, because they loved what they did, because the act of creating was enough. And that's when the magic happened. Their art flourished, their peace was restored. They found that their true peace came when they stopped living for others' approval and began living for themselves. The Buddha teaches you yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. These words spoken by the Buddha remind us that we don't need to seek validation from others to feel worthy. Our worth is intrinsic. It's not something that can be given or taken away by the opinions of others. When we live for external validation, we lose touch with our true self. But when we learn to love and accept ourselves, we become grounded in our inherent value. And here's the thing, the same is true for you. The whatever mindset isn't about apathy or indifference. It's not about not caring, it's about freedom. The whatever mindset is about letting go of the need to constantly seek approval from others. It's about living your truth, regardless of what others think. It's about stepping away from the exhausting pursuit of validation and embracing the profound peace that comes from trusting yourself, from standing firm in your own worth without needing anyone else to confirm it. Imagine living a life where you no longer seek constant reassurance, where you stop measuring your worth by the opinions of others. Imagine waking up each day knowing that you are enough exactly as you are, regardless of what others think or say. What would that freedom feel like? To finally release the need to explain yourself, to stop justifying your choices or seeking approval for your dreams, to stand tall in your own skin, fully accepting yourself without apology. This doesn't mean we stop caring about the people around us. It doesn't mean we suddenly become indifferent to their opinions. But it means that we stop giving those opinions the power to define us. We stop letting them determine our happiness, our self-worth, and our path. The people who truly matter in your life will respect and love you for who you are not, for the mask you put on to please them. Think of how different your life would be if you stopped seeking validation from others. What if the only approval you needed was your own? What if you woke up each day and made choices based on what feels right for you, not what others expect or demand? Imagine how much energy you would free up, energy that's been spent worrying about others' opinions. Energy that could be spent on living authentically, creating, dreaming, and simply being. When you embrace the whatever mindset, you allow yourself to let go of the weight of external validation. You stop running the race of comparison and approval seeking. You free yourself from the need to fit in, to measure up, to conform to the world's definition of success. Instead, you start defining success on your own terms. And when you live from that place of inner alignment, when you live for yourself, you stop bending and breaking under the weight of other people's judgments. You stand tall, grounded in your own truth. Here's a practical exercise. Next time you feel the urge to seek someone else's approval, pause for a moment. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, why am I doing this? Is this decision based on my truth? Or am I trying to fit into someone else's idea of who I should be? Remind yourself I am enough. I don't need anyone's permission to live my life, to follow my dreams, or to be myself. The more you practice this, the stronger you'll become. The more you step into your authentic self, the more you'll realize that you don't need to seek anyone's approval to feel worthy. Your worth is inherent. It doesn't depend on likes, praise, or recognition from others. It comes from within you. So rise like the sun. Shine brightly without apology. Let your light shine not because you're seeking approval, but because it's your natural state. The world doesn't need you to dim your light to fit in. It needs you to stand tall to shine, and to be unapologetically you. That's the true freedom, not in living for others, but in living for yourself. And when you do, you'll find that the world around you will adjust to you rather than the other way around. Because when you stand in your truth, you become the light that others are drawn to without ever having to try. 6. Living by your own standards. We live in a world that constantly defines success for us. Society tells us what success should look like, what we should strive for, how we should measure our worth, what makes us valuable. It whispers that we need the right job, the perfect relationship, the accolades, the recognition. We are told that the more titles we accumulate, the more we achieve, the more we will matter. But what if the real measure of success wasn't dictated by these external forces? What if success was something much deeper, much more personal? Take a moment to pause and ask yourself, what would it feel like if I stopped measuring my life by other people's standards? Imagine waking up tomorrow, free from the pressures of what society expects of you. Imagine not needing to keep up with the latest trends, not needing to follow someone else's path to feel validated. Imagine living life according to your own standards, choosing your goals, your dreams, your success, not based on what others think you should have, but based on what truly fulfills you. Now imagine someone who decided to break free from the chains of societal expectations. They left behind a high-paying job, one that most people would envy, one that was secure, but hollow. They walked away not because they didn't need the money or security, but because it wasn't their truth. It wasn't their soul's calling. So they chose a different path, one that aligned with their passion, their inner purpose, and their heart's desire. They didn't do it for the praise or approval of others. They didn't seek to be admired, to be celebrated, or to receive recognition. They made this change for one simple reason: it was the path that felt true to who they were. They trusted that their worth was not defined by their paycheck, their title, or the applause of others, but by their ability to live authentically. Does that sound liberating? To live a life rooted in your own truth, free from the constant pressure to live up to someone else's expectations. To choose to pursue what makes you feel whole, rather than what the world tells you will make you successful. The real path to peace. True peace begins when you stop chasing the approval of others. It starts when you stop measuring your success by likes, titles, or promotions, and begin measuring it by something much more personal. Something that doesn't fluctuate with trends or the opinions of others. True success is measured in quiet moments, the kind that come when you close your eyes at night, feeling a sense of pride and fulfillment, not because you achieved something others praised you for, but because you lived authentically, according to your own values and desires. It's so easy to fall into the trap of living for approval. We've been conditioned to think that success means having what others think we should have. We chase the next promotion, the perfect relationship, the lifestyle that seems to be endorsed by society. But with each step we take on this path, we often lose sight of what we truly want. We begin living for others' applause and forget that the deepest fulfillment comes not from how many people admire us, but from how true we are to ourselves. But here's the painful truth. The more we live for others, the more disconnected we become from our own desires, our own voice. We measure our worth by their standards, not our own. We sacrifice our true needs to meet the expectations of those around us. We end up creating a life that looks perfect on paper but feels empty inside. And so we reach for more success, more approval, more recognition, believing that one day we will feel fulfilled. But the truth is, the more we chase approval, the further we drift from our own peace. The first step towards peace is to stop measuring success by other people's standards, to stop letting society tell you who you should be, what you should do, and how you should feel. Your worth isn't tied to a title, a paycheck, or the number of followers you have. Your worth is inherent. It comes from living a life true to yourself. The world will always try to shape you, mold you into something else, but you are the only one who can define your success. You are the only one who can determine what truly brings you joy, peace, and fulfillment. Think about it. What if success didn't mean having everything the world told you to want? What if success didn't mean accumulating titles or possessions, but simply living in alignment with your own truth? What if when you closed your eyes at night, you could look back on your day and feel proud? Not because of what others thought of you, but because you stayed true to yourself. What if that kind of peace could be the measure of your success? Living by your own standards requires courage. It requires stepping off the well-worn path and walking into the unknown. It means being willing to face the discomfort of not fitting in. It means trusting that by following your own truth, you will attract the right people, the right opportunities, and the right experiences. It means knowing that even if not everyone understands you, your peace will come from within you, not from the validation of others. Imagine just for a moment how much lighter your life could feel if you stopped trying to keep up with others' definitions of success. What would it feel like to choose your own path, regardless of how different it might be from everyone else's? What would it feel like to make decisions that align with your soul, not your ego? To say no to things that drain you, and yes, to things that fill you up. This is the true path to peace, living in alignment with your own truth, free from the pressure to meet someone else's expectations. Take a moment right now and reflect, what in your life have you been doing just to please others? Where have you been living by someone else's standards instead of your own? And what would it feel like to finally release those expectations, to let go of the need to keep up, and to start living for you? True freedom comes when you choose your own standards. It comes when you stop looking outside of yourself for approval and start looking inward. You are worthy because you exist, not because of the titles you hold or the praise you receive. When you start measuring your success by how closely your life aligns with your deepest values, that's when true peace enters. So I invite you today to take one small step toward living by your own standards. Ask yourself, what do I truly want? And take action. Honor your truth, no matter how unconventional it may seem. And remember, you are the only one who can define your success. Your journey towards inner peace begins when you stop living for others and start living for yourself. You are enough exactly as you are. And that's the most beautiful success of all. 7. Your worth was never meant to be negotiated. A diamond doesn't argue about its value. It doesn't question its brilliance or wonder if it's good enough to be admired. Its worth is inherent, etched in its very structure, in its very being. And just like that diamond, your worth is innate. It doesn't need to be negotiated. It doesn't need to be proved to anyone. You are enough exactly as you are. But how often do we forget this? How often do we find ourselves chasing after approval, constantly measuring our worth based on the opinions of others? We live in a world that loves to hand out judgments and opinions, to offer validation or criticism, like it's their birthright to determine who we should be and what we should value in ourselves. We bend to the winds of external approval, constantly seeking reassurance that we are enough, that we matter, that we're worthy of love, success, and happiness. And yet your value was never meant to be dictated by anyone else. It was never meant to be something you have to beg, for something you have to prove over and over again. Your worth is woven into the very fabric of who you are. You are enough, not because of what you do, but because of who you are. Think about it. In all the moments you've doubted yourself, in all the times you felt not good enough, what was the root of it? Was it because you were truly lacking something within you? Or was it because someone else's opinion made you feel that way? How many times have you adjusted your path, made sacrifices, or compromised your dreams simply to gain approval from others? It's time to realize that your worth is not up for negotiation. Consider the times in your life when you've felt undervalued, when you've given and given only, to be met with indifference or criticism. Think of the relationships, the jobs, the situations where you poured your heart out. But it still wasn't enough. Those moments hurt, don't they? They chip away at our confidence, at our self-respect. They make us question our value. And yet here's the truth. Their failure to see your worth doesn't diminish it. Imagine for a moment that you are a diamond untouched by the world's opinions, unaffected by the judgments of others. Picture yourself radiating with brilliance with the knowledge that your value is inherent. When the world criticizes, when people fail to recognize your worth, you don't shrink or shrink back. You shine brighter. Because you know that your worth has nothing to do with what others think. How would your life change if you stopped seeking validation from external sources? If you stopped wondering if you're enough, and instead affirmed to yourself that you are already whole, just as you are? What would it feel like to stop chasing the approval of others and start honoring your own worth? In those moments of doubt when you feel like you're not measuring up, pause, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, why am I seeking validation from someone else? Why am I looking for someone else's approval to define my worth? Reflect on the areas of your life where you still search for validation, whether it's in your career, your relationships, or how others perceive you. What would happen if you stopped searching for external confirmation and started affirming your own value? You see, the truth is the moment you recognize that you are already enough, that your value is not contingent on the opinions of others. Something powerful happens. You step into your own power. You no longer need permission to be. Your worth no longer depends on how many likes you get, how many people praise you, or how many accolades you receive. It rests in who you are in the quiet, unshakable, knowing that you are worthy simply because you exist. This shift is transformative. It frees you. The constant chasing, the constant seeking, the endless trying to prove yourself, it all fades away. You become free. You begin to live for yourself, not for the approval of others. You start making decisions based on your own values, not based on what will gain the most acceptance. And that is where peace is found, in the release of needing to be validated, in the trust that you are enough without anyone's confirmation. But how do we begin this journey? How do we begin the practice of honoring our worth, especially when we've been conditioned to seek external approval? Start with small, intentional steps. Begin by affirming your value each day. When you wake up in the morning, look in the mirror and tell yourself, "I am enough." Repeat it until you believe it. When you face challenges, when you feel doubt creeping in, remind yourself that your worth isn't tied to the outcome. It isn't tied to what others think or say. You are worthy because you are. Next time you feel the urge to explain yourself or justify your decisions to others, pause. Don't negotiate your worth. Stand firm in your truth. You don't owe anyone an explanation for being who you are or living the life you choose. Your truth is yours alone, and that's enough. You don't need permission to be yourself, and you don't need to prove your worth to anyone. Your worth is unshakable. It is like the sun rising in its own time, shining brightly regardless of who notices. Just because someone fails to see your brilliance doesn't mean it dims. Your worth is inherent. It is built into your very essence. No one else can define it, and no one else can take it away. Imagine the freedom you would feel if you stopped negotiating for your worth. If you stopped looking for others' approval to feel validated. What would it feel like to finally step into your own power, to stand tall, grounded in your own truth, unafraid of judgment or rejection? Living this way doesn't mean you stop caring about others. It means you stop giving them the power to define who you are. You stop letting the world's opinions dictate your happiness, your confidence, and your peace. You stop negotiating your worth. As you begin to embrace this truth that your value is inherent, that it doesn't depend on the opinions of others, you will discover a sense of inner peace and freedom that cannot be shaken. Your confidence will rise, not because you've earned it through approval, but because you have finally realized that you were always enough. So today, start by honoring your own worth. Recognize that you are not a commodity to be negotiated. You are a priceless being, born with the right to exist fully, just as you are. Stand tall, shine brightly, and let the world adjust to your light. You are enough. You always have been. The most powerful thing you can do for yourself, the thing that will transform your life and set you free, is to stop living for others and start living for you. It sounds simple, doesn't it? But the truth is, it's one of the hardest, most liberating choices you can make. Letting go of the constant need for external validation, releasing the grip of others' opinions, and instead trusting your own voice, this is where true freedom begins. For so long, we've been taught to measure our worth by how others see us, by the praise we receive, by the approval we seek. But here's the truth. Your worth has always been inside of you. You don't need anyone else's confirmation to know that you are enough. The moment you begin to trust yourself, to trust your path, you realize that you've had everything you need all along. So what would it feel like to finally let go of the pressure to meet everyone else's expectations? To step into your life fully, unapologetically, and without hesitation? To stop shrinking to fit into spaces that were never meant for you? And to start living on your own terms, to live in a way that honors your truth and reflects the person you truly are not, who others think you should be. Imagine waking up every day with a peace of knowing you're living for yourself. That when you make decisions, when you speak your truth, when you show up in the world, it is for you. You are the author of your story, and you no longer need to wait for permission to live it. You are free. Live for yourself. This doesn't mean being selfish. It means giving yourself the space to be who you truly are without shame, without compromise. It means stepping into your light and letting it shine boldly and confidently without apology. It's time to stop living in the shadows of others' expectations. You don't need to conform to please or to prove anything to anyone. You are already enough. You have always been enough. The moment you recognize this, you begin to reclaim your power. Your confidence will no longer be dictated by external approval. It will come from deep within, rooted in the truth of who you are. Trust your path. Trust that even if it doesn't look like everyone else's, it is your unique journey. There is no right or wrong way to live your life. There is only your way. The beauty of it is in the authenticity and the courage it takes to follow your own heart, to trust that what's meant for you will find you when you are aligned with your truth. And as you do this, as you live for yourself and trust your path, you will see how your light grows brighter. It doesn't need to be hidden or dimmed anymore. Let your light shine. Let it be a beacon for others, a symbol of what's possible when we stop living for others and start living for ourselves. You are not here to blend in. You are here to stand out, to shine, and to be unapologetically you. As we end this journey together, take this with you. Live for yourself, trust your path, and let your light shine without apology. Thank you truly for being here. Take one small step today, just one step toward living for yourself, because you deserve it. You are worthy of a life that reflects your truth, your dreams, your desires. You are enough, and from this moment on, you will no longer ask for permission to live your best life. Live for you. Stand tall, stand strong, and watch as your world shifts in beautiful, unexpected ways. You are ready, you are enough, and your time is now.